As the 90s continue to embrace the era of martial arts while combining the concept of anthropomorphic characters, there seems to be a forgotten treasure that may have been overlooked but contains a niche fanbase that only selective individuals remember. Cause today, I'm taking you all the way to the mystical world of Tao. As Warriors of Virtue was released in 1997, and during this time frame, we had a plethora of similar films or cartoons that contain animals that speak and kick ass, like turtles, sharks, ducks, mice, felines, dinosaurs, and more. But what about kangaroos? I bet you didn't see that coming, but also probably not surprised because the 80s and 90s were full of ideas and imaginations. When watching this movie, there seems to be two storylines that run parallel with each other, but are also so drastic that sometimes it feels like you're watching two different films at the same time. So let's talk about story number 1. And I will say, the scenes often jump from one to another, making it fast-paced to build any sort of connection to any character. The movie introduces us to a kid named Ryan Jeffers who suffers from a leg disability. I guess Ryan is a huge fan of comics or martial arts, as it's his way to escape reality since his parents neglect his depression, but it's vaguely given any importance nor does it expand any further. Ryan is also friends with a man named Ming, who's an owner of a Chinese restaurant whom uses martial arts to cook food and does a roundhouse kick to turn the faucet on. Ming eventually gives Ryan some bullshit advice about life as optimism and also hands him a book called The Manuscript of Tao that represents the 5 elements of life: water, fire, earth, metal, and wood. Then, as a side story, the girl he crushes on likes someone else. He gives the captain of the football team Brad the winning play but receives no credit, and when trying to impress the older kids one night as an initiation to join the group after exposing and embarrassing Brad in front of all his friends, we get a scene that always shocked me as a kid. Chucky, Ryan's best friend, ends up mimicking a wiener joke by a hand gesture, and I remember how I never got used to this kind of level of humor for a kid's film, but I laughed it off anyways. Nonetheless, everyone meets at the power plant. Brad becomes an asshole and tells Ryan to walk across a pipe to tag graffiti on the wall if he wants to be cool, and while attempting to do so, Ryan falls into the water, which brings us to story number 2, and this is where the movie really starts. Ryan awakes in the world of Tao, in which now his leg is 100% healed. Tao is depicted as a serene, magical environment full of forests, rivers, creatures, and villagers, and learns that the manuscript that Ming gave him earlier is heavily sought after, as an evil warlord named Komodo wants to obtain the secret passage within it. This not only allows him to steal the life spring of Tao, causing it to deplete of its color and beauty, but can also remain young forever. Komodo's acting is not only extremely bad, but his facial expressions and dialogues are pretty hilarious and traumatizing at the same time. It's just something you have to see for yourself, especially when he says "shit happens" in one scene, which totally had my jaw drop as a kid. Ryan befriends a few townspeople as well as Master Chung, whom introduces us to 4 out of the 5 Warriors of Virtue, and I freaking love this scene. We have Lai, the warrior of wood and virtue of order, Tsun, the warrior of earth and virtue of loyalty, Qi, the warrior of fire and virtue of wisdom, and Yi, the warrior of metal and virtue of righteousness. Yi is the only one who doesn't speak, and this character has a sad backstory, which I won't spoil, but it definitely adds a lot of depth to him. But seeing animatronic kangaroos with uniquely designed outfits and performing martial arts with their signature weapons is so badass. I mean, they actually look incredible, and perhaps a little bit scary, but hey, it's the 90s. We learned that the 5th member Yun, the warrior of water and virtue of benevolence, left the group after having a fallout which involves a very heavy and conflicting past incident, which adds a lot of character development. But as the story progresses, he joins his family once again, which is wholesome, and buries the hatchet with Lai, which is pretty similar to Raphael and Leonardo from Ninja Turtles. Since Ryan lost the manuscript after an ambush, the rest of the movie has our warriors kick some ass, go on some wild adventures, as well as learning how to work together as a team. And I will tell you, whenever the Warriors of Virtue talk, their voice acting is phenomenal. However, one thing I'm not a fan of this movie, which completely ruins it, are the fight scenes. Whenever a fight scene takes place, the screen becomes hazy or blurry with a bunch of wind and leaves blowing all over the place, almost making it impossible to see what's actually happening. It's such a shame because from what I can make of it, had they removed those effects, this movie would have been even better. There's also one scene in this film where it involves a surprising betrayal, which I won't spoil because the shock value is worth it. By the end of the movie, we get an emotional death scene which has our 5 warriors mourn the loss of Master Chung after battling Komodo. And this has them feel hopeless, but thanks to Ryan, he provides them the courage to keep going as he reads the manuscript to provide spiritual powers. And here, we get a 5-on-1 fight. This is what makes the movie awesome. Sure, the fights are hard to watch, but seeing Komodo take on the Warriors of Virtue is epic. In fact, it's so brutal that he even makes them bleed, and to see our heroes bruised up only shows the viewers how high the stakes are. But of course, the warriors pull through and end Komodo's reign in Tao, which brings this land back to fruition, prosperity, and peace. Unfortunately, Ryan is wounded after reading the manuscript, and despite bringing Tao back to life, anyone would assume that Ryan is going to die. And in fact, he does. Except he doesn't, as everything you just watched was all in Ryan's head. Cause remember I told you in the beginning, Ryan escapes reality. Therefore, the movie resumes back at the water plant where Ryan still has his leg disability and is pressured to walk across the pipe to tag the wall, but instead says no thank you, tells Brad he can kiss his ass while witnessing his friends abort when the pipe bursts, leaving Brad to be stranded on the opposite side. So, the movie concludes with Ryan back at home. We get a random storyline about his mother selling a few houses, which means that they're wealthy since she's a real estate agent, and we have no idea what happened to Ming, Chucky, Ryan's dad, or his leg. So yeah, what an odd way to end the film because it only tells me Ryan needs therapy. I solely remember renting this film from Blockbuster during summer afternoons on multiple occasions, and especially nearing the end of summer before school was starting. But if you really want to capture the moment, the beginning of the film showcases it really well, with its vivid blue skies, sprinklers turning left and right, birds chirping, and kids playing on the sidewalks. Man, I wish I could go back to that innocent time. Overall, Warriors of Virtue is an awesome movie. There are some key iconic moments, and despite its negative reviews and surprisingly niche fanbase alongside its books and action figures, surprisingly there was a continuation but failed miserably to capture the same magic, but we won't speak of that. One thing I will admire is the ability to capture the essence of martial arts, beautiful backdrops, animatronics, and the good old 90s style of anthropomorphic characters. It's just too bad it didn't perform well and didn't become as nearly as popular as it should have been due to the fact that there was a lot of competition. I know we'll never see a reboot, but for those who actually remember this film and like it, will understand why it's cherished, but until then, for the rest of the world, it'll remain forgotten as if Tao never existed. Let me know in the comments below what you think of Warriors of Virtue, and I'll talk to you all next episode.